Yeah, it's actually fairly easy. And then once you set up the Facebook, you just choose at the bottom of the screen to go live and it'll connect.
Oh, good.
So we are, yeah, I think we are live. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this. All right, you can still see my screen, right?
Not the other one. No, it went away.
Oh, it went away. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let people in. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. If you can hear me, just raise your hand so I can see. Excellent. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon, which is called 10 Tips to Find a Job in a Post-COVID-19 World, which I think we can all agree is incredibly, incredibly timely. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I believe I have just about a minute after 2, so I do want to get started, and I appreciate everybody waiting in the waiting room and being patient with us as we got things set up. Again, my name is Maria Nieves. I am the president and CEO of the Hudson County Chamber of Commerce, so I'm welcoming you to our webinar with our guest speaker and featured speaker, Deidre Viney. So again, I'm your host. I would ask everyone while you're with us, just do please keep your microphone mute during the presentation so that we don't pick up any ambient noise that may come through. And if you have a question, our speaker has asked that you please put the question in the chat box. So I hope if you're on your screen, there's a little chat box and you can basically go in there and you can choose to send the question to me, Maria Nieves. And what I will do is I will be looking at all those questions, and at the end, I will basically summarize all of them, and Deidre will respond to them, if that makes sense. Also, we are live right now on Facebook, and so we're going to continue to be live throughout the presentation. Just be aware that we are live. This is a way for us to be able to amplify the message, and we do have about 2,500 or so users who follow us on Facebook. So for those who can't make it, it's a great way for us to get our messaging out. So I am going to basically turn it over now to our presenter. And again, her name is Deidre Viney. Deidre is a very respected business owner in the state of New Jersey. She is very active as well in Hudson County. And she's nationally known within the Express Employment Professionals franchise. She basically has founded this, oops, did my screen go blank on everyone? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, there we go. She basically has been very active, as I was saying, in Hudson County. I happen to know her actually because we both serve on the board of Women Rising. She has developed her expertise in the fields of professional employment and has become a sought-after speaker who talks about various topics when she visits organizations: how to find a job, how to put together an effective resume, how to interview and land that job, which is ultimately the most important, along with that effective resume. So I'm really, really, really pleased to have Deidre joining us. I think we're going to get a lot out of today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and really hand it over to Deidre. Deidre, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really so pleased you're here today.
Thank you for having me, Maria. And I'm really honored that you asked me to do this presentation for the Hudson Chamber of Commerce, as well as our listening audience on Facebook and members that are not able to listen in during this period of time. Like you mentioned, my name is Deidre Viney. I'm the owner of Express Employment Professionals right in here in Jersey City, New Jersey. We are celebrating our 20 years in business in 2020. So we're super excited about what is to come for the next 20 years of our business. We too have been impacted by what's going on in this crazy world today. But I have faith that when the economy returns, there are going to be lots of jobs out there. And I want to share with you guys today some of the tips that I've been sharing about what's going to position you to be ready to go to work. So my job as a recruiter is to help as many people as possible find jobs while helping as many clients as possible find good people. During this period of the pandemic, we feel that since we interact with so many companies and businesses, we are able to help in a very special way. The world is going to return to normal and businesses will start to hire. Are you going to be ready? I know these are unprecedented times, and Express Employment Professionals, we're actually still hiring. We have clients, companies right now hiring in distribution centers, food manufacturers, apartment buildings, liquor distributors, and all of those type of companies are hiring in a variety of roles. Finding a job is a job. Thus, it requires you to schedule your day as if you were looking for a job or working in a job, I should say. Maybe it's not 8 hours a day, but maybe you should be able to set aside 2 to 3 hours on a regular basis, searching for jobs, sending resumes, having phone screens, interviewing or networking. It really is a numbers game. So I'm going to go over these 10 tips to find a job now from a recruiter standpoint. As Maria mentioned, please put any of your questions in the chat box that you hear along the way, and she will read them out at the end, and I will be happy to answer those questions as time permits. So tip number one is probably an obvious one. You want to update your resume. You want to make sure you have a business email address. You want to have a current phone number with an empty voicemail and a professional voicemail box. I can't tell you how frustrating it is as a recruiter to call someone only to be told that their voicemail is full. One tip that you might consider as it relates to your phone number is to get a Google Voice account. When you get a Google Voice account, you're actually able to use your current phone number and set up a Google Voice account with your current email address. That way, when someone calls you using that Google Voice account, they'll actually have to identify who they are. And if you get that phone call and it'll sound like this, Deidre from Express Employment, will you accept the call? If you're busy at the particular time, you can simply say no and send it to voicemail. If you are available, then obviously you could say yes and take that call. This way, it allows you to have a clean voicemail box because now it's a separate Google voicemail box and allows you to control the calls that are coming into your phone. Also, when you do a resume, it is really important that you are going to get someone to look at your resume. I know that it seems arduous to do a resume to begin with. So if you don't feel that that's in your skill set, I recommend you seek out some sources to find someone to help you do your resume. And then you still also critique it yourself and tailor it to sound like you. I want to tell you that I've seen resumes, so many of them over the years, sometimes things as critical as dates are left off. Don't let that be you. Make sure that you have someone look it over, even a few people look it over, so that you're sure that you're not leaving out really critical information. As they say, it's only 7 seconds that most recruiters or HR professionals have to look at your resume. Please make sure you try to get everything in on that 1 or maximum of 2 pages. I know that nowadays we're sending everything via the web. And so it seems almost like you want to send a longer resume because you really want to highlight all of the work that you've done, but you really need to try to condense it into the last 10 years of your work, maybe even less. If you worked at one company, even better, but you want to try to condense it as best you can. Tip number 2, update your resume on all of these job boards. I just gave you a couple of examples. We have Indeed, we have ZipRecruiter, Career Builder, and Monster. When you are posting your resume, once you've updated it and you put it on these different boards, the boards can actually do the work for you. So you want to make sure that you are going to check your email on a regular basis, because a lot of recruiters, they might not call you initially, they might send you an email. And are you going to be active and check your email? Because as I mentioned at the beginning in my intro, looking for a job is a job, and you're going to have to really go after it that way and be very, very focused. A lot of these jobs boards have strengths that may or may not fit you. So you want to make sure that based on your skill set, which boards are the best ones for you to go on. You probably see the first one listed up there, which is Indeed. Indeed is an aggregator, which basically means Indeed takes jobs from lots of different places, including companies' websites. So if you are on Indeed, that actually might be a great way for you to maximize your time and effort looking at different places, because the system is going to do the work for you. You're going to put in certain criteria, they're going to have your resume on file, and then again, the machine can do the work for you.
Deidre,
Yes.
are you sharing your screen? Because we only see you.
Oh no, I am sharing my screen. Hold on. How do I do that, Maria?
You go to the bottom of your screen, click on the green button that says share screen. There you go.
Sorry about that, guys.
By the way, you look great. So no,
okay, thank you.
Real great. So.
Why did you say something before tip 1 and 2, Maria?
I sent you a little message privately, but I didn't know. So I didn't want to interrupt you until you got to a good break point. So.
And I'm happy to share my presentation with the members.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can see it. Tip number 3.
Yes, we can see it now.
Wonderful. Okay. Tip number 3, you want to sign up for your job alerts. Now, job alerts are similar to what we said earlier with as it relates to Indeed or Monster Career Builder. A lot of them actually have job alerts. So let's say you were an administrative assistant and you're looking for a job in Jersey City area. You can actually put that criteria into some of these job boards, and then every single day, based on your parameters, you get an email that says, hey, XYZ company is hiring. They just posted this job yesterday. So this allows you to actually be proactive versus reactive. Staffing firms, as myself, we also post our jobs and job alerts. So you want to definitely make sure that you do something like that. Now I don't know how to go to the next page, Maria. Oh, please.
You have to actually click in the window to move forward. There you go.
Tip number 4. Here's a shameless plug for a staffing service like Express Employment Professionals. We can be a wonderful resource for you to consider as you are looking for a job. Working with a staffing company as Express, we work with hundreds of companies in the local area. So if you're coming to us, it's almost like you're interviewing with multiple companies all at once. You're going to give us the criteria that you're looking for, and then we can do the work for you and get you out working faster. Also, with a staffing company, a lot of times they have temp assignments, and you may say to yourself, I don't want a temp assignment. However, keep in mind, a temp assignment is going to do 2 things. It's going to get money in your pocket immediately, and it's also going to allow you to continue to use your skill set. So you want to definitely make sure that you try to align yourself with a staffing service. And I'm not saying one staffing service, maybe you align yourself with a few of them that have that you know for a fact find the type of jobs that you're looking for. Tip number 5, you want to update your LinkedIn profile. If you are not familiar with LinkedIn, I highly recommend you take some time and go on YouTube and take a couple of tutorials. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource for you to consider to use, because not only can you put your resume on there that you're going to update, recruiters will find you on LinkedIn based on the criteria that you put in. It's a great way to consider keeping yourself out there. Also, you're going to obviously upload it with a professional picture and not a selfie. And it doesn't have to be professional from a professional person. It could just be someone taking a photo of you, and you're looking in a professional manner. Also, LinkedIn has an option. I just noticed it more recently. There's an option for if you're open to new job opportunities. I highly recommend you take the time to fill in that box, because that's another searchable field for recruiters to find you. You want to obviously make sure that your LinkedIn profile mirrors that updated resume that you're doing, because that's going to help you and align you with companies like myself or other HR professionals that are out looking for you. Tip number 6, phone screens are going to happen. Will you be ready? Here's back to my point I gave you earlier about the Google Voice. If you're out looking for a job, I recommend you answer every phone call. Now, if you set up a Google Voice, now you've just jump-started, your phone screening, because now you're going to have people call you and you're going to know exactly who's on the other end of the line. However, if you don't decide to do that, I still recommend you answer every phone call. Sometimes you might have situations like me where you get lots of calls selling you health insurance. I know it's frustrating, but when you're in the market for a job, I think you should answer every call in a professional manner. Now, if you are outside, let's say, and you're in a place that is not appropriate for you to answer the phone, please do not answer the phone. I can't tell you how frustrating it is as a recruiter when I call someone and they answer the phone, you can clearly tell it's not a good time. Don't answer the phone and let it simply go to voicemail. If you answer by mistake and the person says, hey, is this a good time? And you know it's clearly not a good time, just let the person know it's not a good time and call them back at an appropriate time. Tip number 7, interviews are going to happen now virtually or in person. Are you going to be ready? I recommend you're going to do at least some research, basic research on the company. Please, please, please do this. I'm not sure what happened, but I think that this is a lost art. You want to make sure you're also going to have 2 to 3 questions about the company. What do they say? What is it about them? Are they growing? Are they merging? 2 to 3 questions you might have about the company or the position. And then during the interview, when that comes up, an appropriate answer of, do you have any more questions, is not, no, I don't have any more questions. An engaged interviewee has a question based on the interview, and they also might have another question that they've actually already prepared. Please make sure you have those questions either written down or you've memorized. That's really, really critical. The time to sell yourself is at an interview, and this is your time to shine. You want to talk about all your accomplishments and everything that you've done that's going to sell yourself to this company. So I recommend, based on that resume that you've already updated, they clearly like you. Now is the time to make sure you remember everything that's on that resume. So in your time to do an interview, you need to actually prepare for the interview at least a day or so ahead of time. I recommend a mock interview if that's possible with someone that you trust that's going to give you some key pointers about yourself and how you present yourself in an interview. These are just important ways that's going to help you get that job, because an interview is a critical way for you to land it. Sometimes you might have an interview that's only one person, and that person is the final decision maker. Sometimes it might be you have a second or third round of interviews, and the only way to get to that is to go to that first person. So you want to sell yourself in the best possible light. Virtual interviews are the new thing now, just like we're doing it virtually now. Virtual interviews, you want to show up 10 minutes before the meeting. You want to make sure that you're in a quiet space, and you don't need to let the interviewer know that the only quiet space is your bathroom. Now we have wonderful backgrounds. You can be anywhere in the world with your background. And if you have dogs, I recommend have someone take that dog out during that interview time, because dogs can be unpredictable. And not only that, it's actually distracting to the interviewer if you have a dog or children in the background. You want a quiet space away from all distractions. And if that's the bathroom, so be it. Tip number 8 is also a lost art, which I think is still an important part of the interview process, is follow-up. After you have that wonderful interview and you sold yourself to that company, send that person a quick email within 24 hours, letting them know about why you feel like you're the best person for the job. Remember, you're interviewing them as well. They may not know if you're interested in the job. Even in a competitive market, if you feel that you're the best person for this job based on the qualities that they've already explained to you in the job, description, then you need to sell yourself to that employer one last time through a follow-up email. If they don't have an email address that they provided to you, then you'll have to use just regular mail. But I think this is a lost art. Recruiters want to know if you're interested, and let them know, I am interested in this job and this is why. It's a one other chance for you to sort of seal the deal, if you will. Tip number 9. I might also put this as tip number 1 in the future. Social media. Social media is your brand, your personal brand. And how are you going to represent yourself on your social media? Before you even do that interview or resume, I recommend you look at your social media, all mediums that you're utilizing now, and now is the time to clean it up. Do you have inappropriate pictures up that you thought were fun with your friends? Do you have comments you've made that when you were really upset about something someone said? You can only control what you can control. So I would recommend you look at your social media page and clean it up now. If you think that there's something out there that might have an employer question whether or not you're a person that they want represented in their organization. I know you're going to say, well, I have a private Instagram page or I have a private Facebook page that only my friends see. You and I both know that nothing's ever private on the internet. Someone can screenshot it and send it to another friend who's not even friends with you. And there it is, it's out in the universe forever. So please take the time and clean up those social media pages. I always like to use the adage as it says here, if your mother or father would be embarrassed or upset about something you either said or a picture on there, then it's probably not good. But if they think it's fine, then I'm sure it's good. Okay. And our final tip of the day is tip number 10, networking. This is the time to let everyone you know, let them know that you're looking for a job. Even if you're not necessarily in the marketplace now and you're concerned you might get laid off, or you're just looking for a new job, you need to let everyone you know that you're looking for a job. This is family, this is friends, this is coworkers of old places. If you're out of work, obviously, old bosses. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource. Again, if you're not as familiar with LinkedIn, take the time and take some tutorials because you need to get very, very familiar. I think a LinkedIn class could be a whole class to learn how robust it is to utilize it as a way to find a job. And here I write down here, give your 20-second elevator pitch. What are you going to say about yourself in 20 seconds or less if you happen to get someone on the phone, or if you happen to have to talk to someone about whatever you'd like to do. So for example, my 20-second elevator pitch will go something like this. My name is Deidre Viney. I'm with Express Employment Professionals. I help companies find talented staff while helping people find amazing jobs. So it could be something as simple as that. Doesn't have to be super crazy, but you want to be able to hone in on the fact that they want to know exactly what you're doing. As it goes now with social media, it used to be 6 degrees of separation. Now it's more like 3. You're going to look on Facebook. You won't believe that someone you went to high school with is now a friend of someone that's a current person that you're friends with. And there you go. You've now expanded your network and you can talk to all those individuals about you and that you are in the market for a job. Because again, looking for a job is a job. Here's another amazing networking tip that you can consider, and back to my LinkedIn, and once you get really, really familiar with it, you can actually make a template introducing yourself, about what kind of job that you're looking for. You can go on LinkedIn, you can do searches, and these aren't individuals that you know, but these are individuals that you want to get to know. And you can send it out to 50, 100, however many at a time. And then there's an opportunity for you to say, hey, this is the kind of job that I'm looking for. Do you know anyone? Do you know anyone at your company? Once you've done a scaled down search, that goes back to your 2 to 3 hours a day. Maybe that's an hour a day that you do, or 20 minutes a day that you do. This way, because a lot of times, believe it or not, by the time an ad is put onto the web, they have exalted a lot of other places. They may have changed, talk to staffing agencies and we couldn't find it. They look internal and they couldn't find it. So if you're going right to the company, you might actually they might actually be able to help you before the job is even posted. Like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's important too. Even if you're not as familiar with this person, you would be surprised the kindness of strangers. They will help you get your resume in front of the right person if they're not the person that's doing the hiring. So utilize some tools like that. And I think that you will shorten your time out of work as quickly as possible. Now I will open the floor for questions.
Deidre, thank you so very much. That was fantastic. And I love that you sort of encapsulated all of these into, 10 helpful tips, because the human brain probably can't take much more, but I thought that was great. I wanted to just reiterate the Google phone number and voicemail. I have one of those, and I always put that number on my resume. And so when I get phone calls, I know that most likely it might be related to that. So it's very easy to set up. It's free. So thank you for that, for validating that for me. A question for you. Dates on resumes for older workers in particular who have very long work histories. Is that really something even older workers need to do? I've heard, like, there seems to be a debate, dates or no dates on resumes.
No, I think it's very important to understand how long you worked at a place. And I know that I've got a question like this before in terms of people figuring out your age and whatnot based on how many years you worked at a company. Now, what I do recommend is you don't need to put your dates on there for when you graduated from college. You can simply put, I have a bachelor's degree from this university, and that's fine. But an employer wants to know how long you've worked at that particular job. Or let's say you've done multiple things at a job. I've seen that done. Or let's say you worked at 15 years at one company, and then you've done 5 years here and 5 years there in different areas. It just shows a more robust employee, shows a more robust experience that you have. And I think it just validates why you would be a great employee.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question that was posed is, if you have a physical challenge or disability and would need some accommodations from your employer, your future employer, at what point, especially now with everything pretty much being done virtually, at what point in the process do you have that conversation with them?
Well, that's a really good question. We are all, every company has to adhere to EEOC, which is Equal Opportunity Employer, and that includes disabilities. And so it would behoove them to not hold that against you. But if there's a specific accommodation you have, let's say you can't drive and it needs to be remote, then that might be something you need to address right up front, because if that's a deal breaker, then there's no sense of going further with the company. However, if it's some other thing that they might be able to make an accommodation, like for example, it might be a hearing impairment, and it might be as simple as they buying a certain phone for you for that job to work. I think the time to address that, to be honest with you, is after you've been given an offer.
Yes, I agree. Highly agree on that.
Thank you, Tim. So Deidre, do employers, just to make sure I'm clear, do employers have to accommodate your need once they've made the offer, or
once you're working?
Too technical or legal, but
yeah. So I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
I play one on TV now. But I know that once you have to work, if there's a situation that needs an accommodation, they are required by law to accommodate you.
Okay. Here's another question. This is a really good one. I have a lot of friends as well who have had this issue where they've gotten a job and then they realize that the employer put on a really good face during the interview. So do you have tips on how you can know that the company you're interviewing might not be as good as they say? Like, they're just not a great company to work for. They might even be a poorly run company to work for.
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do. So remember I said earlier, you're interviewing the company just as well as they're interviewing you. So if you're at an interview, the time to ask some questions is really critical right from the door. If there's an issue or a concern that you have, I'm not saying validate it in the interview, but my recommendation would be, see if you can talk to some current employees that are there. If they've given you an offer and you really want to talk a little further, I mean, when I interview internal people for Express, I like to actually have them talk to my other staff members, because they're all going to work together very closely. So it's really important that you have a good relationship, and at least you have a litmus of this person before they come in, come to work on Monday morning, and you introduce them as, brand new employee 225, So I think it doesn't do any harm to say, before I accept the offer, I'd like to talk to some other current employees, because that might be an opportunity for you to really ascertain if this is a good environment. Now, yes, you're going to have employees that might lie. Yes, you're going to have employees that may be unhappy. But I think the time to ask that is when they've given you that offer. I mean, they might actually offer it themselves. Unfortunately, sometimes it might be with the boss, the person that's interviewing you. And that's, you may not know until you get there. We've had all kinds of situations. I've had situations where you get to a job, everyone said wonderful things, and the person that interviewed you, the boss, and you just clash. And there's no way for you to really know that until you're actually working, unfortunately. But I think you can do the best you can. I don't like the internet in terms of, I know there are Glassdoor and there's other things on there where people say really scandalous, slanderous things about their current or past employer. I don't like those sites because I don't know if it's someone that I don't know the backstory, if you will. And so I rather hear it directly face to face with someone, or over the phone if it's appropriate, of a current employee. And if the person that is giving you a backlash, they don't want you to do that, that might be a red flag to you.
Okay, thank you. And another question about, and this is always difficult as well, especially for women, but negotiating salary. My thought is that it should really be offered up first by the employer, so you know in what range they're sort of working, as opposed to you offering up the number, because especially women, we tend to lowball what we think we're worth, unfortunately. What is your advice around negotiating salary?
So now the question of how much you've made at the last job is actually not allowed in the applications anymore. That law passed a while ago. And so that actually is helping to level the playing field, because they are actually not even allowed to ask you what you made at your last employer. That's not allowed. And if they do that, I know that's a challenging question because you want to be direct. And I may suggest that you say, I don't know. I don't even have an answer for how you would answer that, because that's a challenging one. Because, that's almost like asking someone, do you have children? And they know they're not supposed to ask that question in an interview. It's against the law. But as it relates to, how much you're making, I think it's important that you do some due diligence ahead of time, because it's really important that you understand how much the position is paying. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had someone interview for the position and I've told them what the salary is, and then they want to try to renegotiate a salary much higher when I've explained to you what the client's budget is. So please don't do that. If you understand the position is paying X, don't go in with an expectation that you're going to make much more because you have this, and this to offer. It might work, but recognize that companies also have budgets. But back to your original question about not, lowballing yourself or not understanding your worth, I think it's just important that you understand what the market is demanding. And Career Builder has a wonderful tool that's available for anyone, that you can actually see what's out there and see kind of a range based on your experience. I know it's kind of, sometimes it is a range and sometimes it might be a big range, but that'll give you an understanding of what other companies are paying for that same kind of position. So now you're going in with ammunition at the negotiating table, because you'll know what you're worth at other companies. And it's fair to say that to the company. You might say, well, okay, I'm being offered $50,000, and you might look online and find out that position actually is in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. And you might go to the company and say, well, the position is in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, and based on what I think I can bring to the table, I actually think I'm worth, I think I'm worth 60. And they may come back to you and say, well, I'm really sorry, that's not in our budget. I mean, those are lots of issues as it relates to salary, but doing some research is really, really critical.
And at what point in the sort of job process, the interview process, should that conversation be had? When there's an actual job offer on the table, and so then you have something to negotiate around? Correct.
There's a lot of times, if you know the salary range at the beginning, I know that when I post jobs on our website, I try to put the salary range in there for a number of reasons. One, I want you to know what it is. Not every company does that though. Some companies will put an open salary to kind of get an idea of the talent. And unfortunately, you don't know what that is. And then you apply and then they come back to you at a really low offer. Now you're frustrated. So that's why I like to put it up front, because it gives you an idea of exactly what you're walking into. But if it is open, the time to do it is when an offer is on the table in writing.
And a lot of questions on salary. So another question is related to some online forums apparently have a question about what range of salary you're looking for. I wonder if that's a way of getting around the question that you can't ask anymore, which is, as you mentioned, it's illegal to now ask what you made at your last job. So now they're asking what range you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And you know what? It's fair to give a range too. And you can give a big range if you think it's appropriate.
Okay, so just be smart about the range you're putting in there.
Yes. So you don't want to knock yourself out the box either, because at the end of the day, a company will have a budget and you might feel that you're worth 100 and their budget's only 80 and they know they're not willing to go to 100. You know, you have to be smart about it as well. I mean, I had a podcast the other day, Maria, where we talked a little bit about salary, particularly ones that are highly compensated, you know, the 150 and up kind of salary, I'm going to call it. And what I noticed in 08, 09, 10, that really bad recession, financial recession, a lot of those workers were out of work for a really long time. And one of the things that I remember, I had some really close friends of mine that were not willing to bend. They were willing to take the salary and that was their salary. And I just encourage you to really think outside the box as it relates to that. If you're in that category, consider some consulting work, even if it's half of what you were making, but because you need to keep yourself busy, you need to keep yourself engaged, you need to keep yourself out there, your skill set, because it may take you a little bit longer to find a job in a certain salary range or even a certain skill set. It might be a little harder to find a job. So just be open to not only just a lower salary sometimes as it relates to consulting work. So maybe you need 150, but you're willing to take 80 on a consultant basis. That might be a month at a time. Then consider something like that, but don't try to continue to wait it out, because you can, if you have to go in with your eyes open, right? So if you go in your eyes open, that allows you to say, okay, I'm gonna take this consulting job that's making, an annual 80, but it's a month-to-month situation. So at the same time, I'm still looking for that other job, but now you still have money coming in the door and you're not losing out on your skill set. And also, if you're unable to do that, consider your volunteering with an organization that you believe in.
So that actually leads me to a couple of questions. So we're more than likely going to be heading into a really deep recession. I think the economy contracted 4.8%, they're saying, in the first quarter. It's going to be worse in the second quarter. And that, by definition, 2 consecutive quarters of contraction in our GDP equals a recession. What should folks be thinking about right now with regards to how they approach this job market that's probably going to be tough for a couple of years?
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of doing these presentations, because I think that especially if you have not looked for a job in a long time and now you're finding yourself out of work, those are the ones that are most challenging, because you're not used to looking at doing your resume, you're not used to interviewing, you're not used to going on LinkedIn. It's a lot of things. And now you've got to do all of these things all at once almost. And the learning curve is going to be super steep. And so my recommendation is that you do like you're doing today. You're listening to these webinars, you're updating your resume. And if you're recognizing that that's not your skill set for your resume, you're reaching out to resources that can help you get that resume up and going. You're doing mock interviews with your family, because if you have not interviewed in a really long time, you're going to be rusty, and you need to be able to convey confidence in an interview, and poise in an interview. And you want to be able to get all those points across, that what you've done in your last employer is applicable to this new company. So I think taking this time when we're all social distancing on the weekend, listen to some webinars, go on YouTube. YouTube's like my go-to for everything. So go on YouTube and really take the time to brush up in a lot of areas that you recognize might be a deficiency. Because if unemployment is as high as it says it's going to be, it's going to be frustrating looking for a job. And I like to do back to one of my tips when I said that you're going to have these jobs coming to you on an active basis. You might get frustrated and you may be tempted, just tempted to try to apply to things that you're not qualified for. Please try not to do that, because it's only going to make you more frustrated if you say to yourself, oh, I sent 100 resumes out to that, which to me, I can't even wrap my arms around 100 resumes being sent out that quickly. Are you qualified for those 100? Would it make more sense to send 20 out that are really for ones that are qualified and that you can keep track of? Because now the emails are going to be coming fast and furious. It may or may not be. I don't know. So I think that it's really critical as we're going into this high unemployment that they're saying that you really be strategic and set goals for yourself. So put a whiteboard up or put it in your phone. How many resumes do you want to send each day? And what companies are ones that you really want to work for? What positions are you really want to work for? Do an inventory, because it's going to be really critical that you not just say, I want to do whatever. Because that's, at the end of the day, I know that people want to work and I get that. But to say I'll do whatever, that's not a good answer that an employer wants to hear either.
Right. And I guess for workers who have not had a job recently, that dreaded question, what was your last job? If it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you've really not been in the workplace for a while. How do you approach that? What is the best way to sort of respond?
So that's what I was saying earlier about, I saw that in 08, 09, and it was not all highly qualified, highly compensated. There were sort of regular salaries. And so if that is you, I would recommend that you think about other things you've done during this period of time. If you've been out of work for 2 years, for example, did you volunteer at your child's school? Did you do something at church as it relates to helping them with, collecting tithes or doing the books? Think about what you hopefully have done during that period of time. Or maybe it was as simple as I helped my children, and I was home with them. And that is, as we all are doing now with homeschooling, is a job. So you want to highlight what you've done during that period of time so that you could adequately answer. And that's why, back to my the mock interviews, you need to have your answer. You can't kind of fumble upon it. You need to have it succinct in your head. So when that question comes up, you're ready to answer it.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask everybody if there are any remaining questions that you have. If there's a topic we haven't yet covered, please do put it in the chat box so that I can ask the question of Deirdre. It's a more sort of, orderly way to ask all the questions. I think I've asked all of them. I'm just going to check my chat box right here. I think I have. Yes, I think I have thus far. One last question, Deirdre. When I started my career a long time ago, I did a lot of temp work. Do temp roles nowadays sort of provide health insurance? When I was younger, it might not have been such a big deal, but I'm older now. So how does that work?
So yes, so that's interesting enough. Express Employment, because we're considered a large employer, we talked earlier in my intro that we have a franchise, and we actually have over 800 offices throughout the United States. We employ over 600,000 people on a daily basis. So although I have my little teeny office in Jersey City, and we service 70, 80, 100 clients every single week, we actually do provide health insurance. We participate in affordable care insurance.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I want to thank Deirdre. It doesn't look like there are any additional questions. I want to thank Deirdre so much for today. Really, I'm going to clap there for you for providing your expertise and taking time out of your busy schedule right now and sharing some tips for what we can do in this very challenging environment. I should also mention that Deirdre's office is located in downtown Jersey City, just a few blocks away from our office at the Chamber. And she is a member of our Hudson County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm so glad for that. And this is what we do at the Chamber. We hope to have our members share their expertise in various ways. Normally we do it in person, but we've been doing these webinars since the pandemic and the shutdowns have started. So again, thank you, Deirdre, for doing this and for doing it rather quickly and turning it around rather quickly. I hope we can have you again for some additional topics, because I have a feeling we're all going to need to continue to have these tips. Also,
And also, I want to share with the listening audience. I'm not kidding when I say we have jobs now. My staff, I think the first couple of days, it was sort of shock, right, about what was happening, and clients were ending assignments left, right, and center. But they have all started to come back. Some of them have started to come back. So we try to keep our website up to date. And again, you're going to align yourself with a staffing firm that fits what you're looking for. If you go to our website and those jobs aren't applicable to you, rest assured there are other staffing companies out there that might fit you. But I encourage you all to, at least check out our website. I love to be able to get everyone working as I can. It's a win-win. It's a win for Express. It's a win for you.
excellent. So I will be checking out your site. Not that I'm looking for a job, but because I think that I've never checked it out. So I think that that's important and a good resource to have always in the back pocket. Timothy, I see your hand going up. Do you have a question? You have to unmute yourself. No, you're saying good job? Hold on, I'm gonna unmute.
I love Tim. Hi, Tim.
How are you, Deirdre? It's really, really good to see your beautiful face, and thank you for this wonderful information. Haven't seen you in a while, so this is nice. But I'm curious, when you're hiring for all these new positions, is social distancing and all that being taken into consideration? How are they doing that at some of the companies you're hiring for right now? Because that seems to be a question that some people are asking. Like, how do they interview social, or how do they go back to work socially and still be able to do their job well?
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. I meant to mention that in the interview process, because if you're interviewing at a company, and I think that's a valid question to ask them, like, how are you practicing social distancing? So to your point, Tim, a lot of our clients are actually warehouses, and believe it or not, right from the door, when March 23rd, when the governor issued an order for businesses to close, or a lot of them were actually considered essential. 100% of my clients are essential. And so they right away recognized, they took temperatures. Every single person that came to work took temperatures. And if you had a temperature, you were asked to not come to work that day, and you had to do a 14-day quarantine. They were really, really strict. But even if you pass that criteria, they're given proper PPE for that job. They are spacing out their workspaces that to make sure that they're practicing at least that 6 feet. So all of our clients have assured us that they are practicing social distancing. I have not heard not one associate complain that they're not providing that proper equipment and that social distancing. So they're taking it very, very seriously. Even if when someone calls out sick, they want to know the reason they're calling out sick. If it is a fever, have they seen a doctor? Have they been tested? Have they been around anyone? There's a whole criteria as it relates to that too, and things you're actually allowed to ask now as it relates to that, because there's such an issue with the concern of infecting other employees at the site. So thank you for that question. It's been on our hearts and minds as well at Express, and we are taking it very, very seriously.
And we also want to make sure that that anybody who's had the virus is also not discriminated against.
Right, exactly. So they're following proper procedures. I've listened to one with a law firm a couple of days ago, just to kind of keep myself up to speed on what's happening. And there are very specific questions that we can ask of a person that is calling out sick that we've never really had to worry about before. We would just say, okay, Mary called out sick today. But now we're able to ask really specific questions, and I have a specific criteria, and I'll be happy to share that with you, Maria, because I found it super helpful.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. And I do want to reiterate your point that yes, there are jobs available right now. And if you've been out of the marketplace, it is important to get yourself back out there. You want to look for jobs you're qualified for, but you also, may have to take something that isn't an exact fit, but gets you back out there and out working. I also just wanted to reiterate your point about doing your research around salary. At the Chamber, I've had to create many positions and hire. One of the first things I do after I create the job description is I go out there and I look on sites, Career Builder is one, for what are the salary ranges in this region, because this region is different than—
Yeah, that's very important.
And it's different than Florida. And I try to see, okay, what does my budget at the Chamber allow for? I obviously want to do the best I can, but as an employer, I've got limitations. But if I'm doing that, then it behooves those of us who are looking for jobs to do the same research.
And I encourage you, salary, it sounds like you had a lot of questions about salary. One of the things I forgot to mention is that the time to sort of talk about salary is not the interview. The time to talk about salary is much after, and even perks. I've had interviews, even internal positions, and they're asking me about perks. And I'm like, well, you don't even know if you have the job. Right. So, just be smart about it. I understand that you're not working for free. No one's asking that. However, the time to figure out, well, what kind of perks you have and what are the benefits, and all those questions can be answered. But the time and the place to answer that is once the company is interested in you and they're willing to put an offer on a table, or if it's verbal offers, there's verbal offers too. The time to really answer and inquire about those benefits and those really key things is then.
Right. Don't jump to shark, so to speak, I suppose. Thank you so much again, Deidre. Really, really appreciate it. So pleased to have you on with us today. And for those of you who found our chamber event either on our website or through Eventbrite, we are going to likely have a speaker up soon within the next month or so on LinkedIn. She's an expert on LinkedIn.
Great.
We've had her come before. I don't even know how to truly utilize LinkedIn, but it is an amazing tool and is one of the best sites for those who are trying to network professionally. So look out for that announcement because we will have her back to join us.
And one more quick thing, Maria, I just realized I forgot to say that I want to listen to LinkedIn too, because I love to learn more things. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it now, but you can always learn more things. But I don't know if your viewers know that there's a paid version of LinkedIn. Just like you pay for Google, like when you go to Google, you put in you're looking for a restaurant, Thai food, and it just happens to pop up at the top. That might not be by accident. It's strategic, and because someone's paid to have their thing show up first. And LinkedIn has very similar parameters that can help you as a job seeker get your resume up there very close to the top. So I encourage you, if you're having the expert on the LinkedIn, take advantage of that, but consider and look into those paid versions of LinkedIn.
Okay, that's good advice. And we'll definitely make sure our speaker addresses some of those questions. I didn't even know you could do that. So thank you. All righty. All right, so we have, it's 9 minutes to 3. So we're gonna give you a whole 9 minutes back, everybody, for your day. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope you found this helpful. Deidre will send out the presentation after. So I'll make sure to connect with her about who to send it to. Again, thank you, everybody. I hope to see you soon on another webinar and hopefully in person one day real soon. All righty, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.